Good evening. In Nigeria, Dr. Mnena Abuku, our special presenter for today, our guest speaker, and our friends and our community in Nigeria and in West Africa and other parts of the continent. And good afternoon, our friends and members of our community in Ottawa and in North America. It's my pleasure to moderate this very special session today. And we have the speaker for today, Mnena Abuku, who is an associate professor of drama and theater. She's a consultant in development communication. She was previously a Queen Elizabeth Scholar, Advanced Scholars Fellow with the Open African Innovation Research Center, which is open air, that is located at the University of Ottawa especially, and the network, and has collaborated in research projects with the Center for Intellectual Property and Information Technology, CIPIT, Strathmore University, Nairobi, Kenya. Her research interests include gender, innovations, entrepreneurship, development, migration, peace, and conflict studies. And then also importantly, Mnena has been affiliated at some point with the Institute of African Studies at Carleton. And she's a very good friend and a very familiar person to our community in Ottawa here. This is a part of the Brown Bag 2021-2022 Brown Bag Seminar Series, which is the Institute of African Studies seminar series that allows scholars across the world, to participate in conversations around their research. Mnena will be speaking on the topic, why should I live by your labels and limitations? Reflections on the dungeon. Colleagues, friends, and members of our community, please join me in welcoming Mnena to this Brown Bag series today. On that note, I would invite Mnena to take over now and present her talk. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to make your acquaintance and so on. So I'll be talking on one of my recent works titled The Dungeon. And The Dungeon is an adaptation of Henrik Ibsen's A Doll's House. So good. The title of, just like you said before, why should I live by your labels and limitations? Reflections on the dungeon. So this has inspired the creative work, Henrik Ibsen's A Doll's House, removing bias and so on. And of course, in Africa, this is what has been going on for centuries, decades, and so on. So the text is all about adapting the script into an African setting, which relates challenges women face in Africa, and most especially Nigeria, and so on. So it also looks at where Wasim, who is in the person of Nora, challenges debates traditional practices, which hold women down and limit them and cut them down from attaining their dreams and so on. So the dungeon, of course, focuses on calling on women to liberate themselves from the shackles of debased traditional practices and from societal expectations which hold them down. And what are these limitations? Of course, because many people are already held down, it boils down to maybe discrimination. And of course, it begins right from the home, where a girl child is kind of seen as second in place. She's discriminated right from the home before she even goes into the society and so on. So how does this relate? From the home, she goes society, and she faces all this. I just like tried to, for those who are not kind of conversant with Henrik Ibsen's work, is just putting everything in a setting, African setting, where Asen, who is the heroine of the text, she connects with her an old friend Gufan, who is in person of Mrs. Linde, and so on. And of course, they talk about old times. They talk about old times and then challenges they have faced. Gufan has lost her husband initially from the beginning of the play. She is to get married to someone who comes to ask for her hand in marriage, even though she does not love the person. She gets married because she has to, the money, the bride price has to be used for her brother who is sick in treatment of the brother and so on. So to get married, no will of her own, she has to fulfill the wish only heir. Because the son is like the treasure of every joy in her future, to save the brother, the husband. And it's when she loses the husband that she later reconnects with her friend Wasen, who is in person of Nora. So they sit back and recount their challenges, just to catch up in old times. So Gufan tells Wasim how the husband's family took away everything because she has no child for the husband. So in African society, once you're married and you have no child, it's like you don't belong. So they take away everything, and she goes through all manner of ordeals now to prove that she did not kill the husband. And these are traditions that even today still go on. And funny enough, you'll find out that most of these traditions, it is even women that carry out such on women themselves. So she recounts everything, and of course, she kind of tells her friend that you have not gone through a lot because this is what I have faced. And Wasin, on the other hand, also tells her own feat how she had to save the husband who was sick, and she had to like sell the father's properties. And of course, in African, most especially Nigeria, the lady is not allowed to share in the father's properties. So she has to like forge a letter of administration, and in order to transfer the father's money, to transfer the money to herself as next of kin, and then also inherit the property, which is kind of something which is really impossible in an African society for a girl to inherit the father's wealth. So she does that in order to sell out the properties to save her husband. So she recounts this as well to her friend. So to cut a long story short, everything now, as with time, everything backfires because a machine who is another person who works at the local government loses his job and then tries to blackmail Wasen in order to help him, but Wasen is not in agreement with this arrangement. So machine tries to blackmail her that he would expose her because she forged the father's signature to sell property and transfer his money to herself. And of course, Tado, who is the husband with his huge ego, would not hear of this. Eventually, everything comes out and he is really appalled. And in spite of the good Wasen has done to save him, he takes it out on Wasen, and the whole, everything ends up in a chaos, and the marriage finally breaks up. So the whole essence there is so many people are tied down in different issues in relation to marriage and so on. So this is just a typical setting in the Nigerian and African society where women go face all manner of challenges, and because they're involved in a long-term relationship and children are involved, they cannot voice out what they are going to frowns at divorce. So a woman has to stay back to face whatever she's going through in the home and so on. So in essence, everything carried out, and this traditional practice is not just in the marriage ceremony, also relates to maybe certain practices like female genital mutilation, where women are circumcised, and it is believed that a woman has no right to sexual pleasure or response, and widowhood rights, where a woman, when she loses her husband, has to go through certain practices and certain traditional rites by shaving her hair. For some culture, it is even very deep, where the water used in washing the cups is forced on the woman to drink to prove her innocence, that she has no hand in killing the husband. Some kind of very gory things done. Some would even have to stay with the cups for a particular period of time, and so on. These are rites in certain cultures carried out. So it is always one practice or the other on the woman, and so on. And funny enough, sometimes it is also seen that because this has been put into the woman's mind, she now that this is the right thing, this is what she has to go. When it is not done, they see it as something is wrong somewhere. So in African culture, it has become a pervasive influence on how women are treated. Women are kind of treated in a very low manner. They are dehumanized and so on, but no one questions or challenges this kind of dehumanization carried out women because they call it tradition. They face all manner of discriminatory laws, and they still control them. These laws still control their lives with negative stereotypes and attitudes. And it prevents the women, this attitude prevents women from attaining their dreams. And of course, since they are seen as second-class citizens, and for some in certain cultures, they are even seen as less human, and they're not kind of treated with dignity and respect. And like I said earlier, it begins from the home, because the poor child is much more appreciated and much more celebrated, and so on. So all these cultural practices and traditions are carried out mostly on girls. So certain, would I say certain paradigms that really are used boil down to maybe bride price, because like the bride price, a man pays money to a girl's family before she gets married, and of course the man feels he owns the lady, and with that, even when she goes through battery, if she faces all manner of violence in the home, she still keeps quiet without challenging. Some because they feel when a man does not beat them, he doesn't love them that much. So it is already engraved on their minds and so on. So they keep silent and then stay in such abusive marriages. Syria, in relation to this text, because the dungeon is just a reflection, is a metaphor relating what really goes on in the Nigerian society. It relates the deep decay in Nigerian political class, where many people who are in power use money and power to exploit the poor masses, because the dungeon there, being metaphoric, being used as a metaphor, relates to the world, the society, the community. Because you know, in the African society, when you talk about a woman in literature, you're relating it to Mother Earth, or to the world, to the community, and so on. So violating a woman is like violating the earth, the community, the society. So in the Nigerian society, the rich and powerful kind of violate the country by dehumanizing many people and exploiting the country, where the downtrodden go through a whole lot of challenges, poverty, and so on, because they continue to stay at the top and then keep the poor down, because the poor have no voice, so they cannot challenge them. The text also relates the corruption in social and cultural state. The poor downtrodden, they have no voice. And these people comprise women, rural people, and children. And this is represented in the characters of Wasen and Tado. The incessant killing in Nigeria are political. The dungeon questions the neglect of children in Nigeria, because looking at the theme also, because if you go through, because we just summarized the text, also involved because covers herself, she decides to leave the husband, abandoning the kids. Stay in children are child right is a big issue. Children suffer neglect and abuse. Child servitude, in the sense where most girls are taken out of the rural homes, their villages, and brought into the city, and most of them face all manner of challenges where they are abused in the homes where they work. We could also call this child labor, because sometimes people go to the rural areas to ask for these young children in order to pay for them to go to school. But when they come to the and so on. Again, children face trafficking. They are trafficked within the country, and some children are their own parents. Slavery, and most of the times it is girls who also face this. Girls face rape, they are defiled and kidnapped. An example could be related to that of Chibok girls several years back in Nigeria, and so on. Some of them have been released though, but some to date nobody knows where they are. Some are involved in prostitution and find it very difficult to get out or to get help, to get stuck and trapped. Society has no strong security or judicial system to protect women and children in the country. Most are helpless, and some have already even turned refugees and displaced people in their own community. So these are themes, these are certain themes the dungeon addresses, because it looks at the unjust treatment of women, male dominance, and the dehumanization of women and girls in Nigeria. So we'll give a little example, because when this idea was conceived, funny enough, the text was written sometime in 2020 during the lockdown. Funny enough, I was still in Ottawa then. So the idea was conceived during the lockdown, and then when I had written the script, I was working with people back in Nigeria. So it was put in form of out to the people, and first of all, take it to the marketplace where it will be put up before a people so that they could also have an interactive session and then see you and all that. So even though I was not on ground, but it was like through the use of social media and communication and all, we could like the people I was working with back in Nigeria could shoot it on, they could like take videos and then send to me and directions and what to be done and so on. So finally, when the production was ready, it was taken to the marketplace in December 2020. So the whole essence there was to like have an interactive session with the audience, that is the people. The work also, they like to put this out of what goes on in society and also harmful practices and child rights, expressions of women and children issues, Nigeria and Africa in general. So you can see from the picture, that's one of the facilitator there talking with the market women there, like sharing her own views as well. Because she was of the opinion that most of the times discrimination starts from the home where a boy is not allowed to do anything because he's a boy, and then most of the times the girl does everything and so on. So she was like giving her own view that boys should also be raised to take certain skills, like life skills, because everybody eats. So cooking is also a life skill. So they should be taught to learn how to do certain things at home and so on. So that's someone there giving her own contribution. So the purpose also is to like have a result which shows where women face rejection and discrimination within their immediate family. Therefore, the fear of rejection has kind of made women not to pursue their dreams or to pursue to live more than being just a housewife and having children and so on. Because many people, most of the times, for fear of being discriminated against, they stay back and not rise up. Interestingly, this also relates within the university community, where discrimination also, women also face discrimination, because the university, which is supposed to be a citadel of learning, a light of the society, a mirror to the society, women sometime in 2019, yes, I was at a conference where some woman narrated her own ordeal. She's also a professor in some sciences department in the sciences or so. And she related her own ordeal because she had some little challenge with a colleague, and because the colleague was in a senior position, and for that held her down for several years, even though she had graduated several PhD candidates and several students. She was not moved, she was not promoted, and so on, and nobody seemed to challenge that just because she's a woman and so on. So this is not just an instance, it has happened in several other places where women are bullied. I remember also the story of is it Miss I don't know whether I pronounced the name very well. Miss Cherry Mokosh, I think she's also with someone who was retired. She also faced, because she's also a social activist out of Kenya for several years before she finally got back again and so on. So several women have really been through a lot. So it is not just in the society, even within the university where people are supposed to be learned and so on. So in essence, Nora, who is Wasin, she now becomes the voice of the oppressed, the rejected in the society, and she gives voice to the voiceless, and so on. Let's see that. Sorry. As a result, she gives voice to the society and then calls on people to rise up and live up to their standards and so on. Again, I have to look at artistic expressions. For this, I'll say the work has been brought down to the African setting, African setting, using the indigenous culture of the Tiv people and so on, because there's a mixture of cultures, because Gufan here gets married to an Igbo man who is somebody from a different culture entirely, and so on. And there's the use of language, because there are certain proverbs built in the work, and then proverbs, songs and done in the local dialect in the language, and then also dances, of course, with the dances, the language and proverbs, and even the costumes. This really carries the whole African culture, the indigenous people, and of course it connects with them. It relates very well with them, because using Ibsen, because most of the times in Nigeria and in the educational community, in the universities, Ibsen is mostly read as a text. It's not really profound. So bringing it down to the African setting, many more will relate to it. And again, because it focuses on the happenings in the society, it really brings out the rich situations, it brings out the understanding, comprehension, and so on. So the artistic expression relates to culture, songs of the people, language, and so on, which go well with the society. In essence, it also relates the local artistic forms through the drums, dances, and so on. It is also interpreted in African settings where women are oftentimes caged or trapped in a boring dungeon by societal expectations. The image of women being caged is also metaphorical, as this could be likened to contemporary issues like, for instance, what has been happening, and then what happened in 2020, where the whole world faced a total lockdown. People were kind of people had to stay indoors because everybody was scared and so on. No one knew what was really happening because of the pandemic and all that. They faced a lockdown where everybody became scared of COVID, and lots of people also died from COVID-19 and so on. So like being caged is also a situation where one is in a state of hopelessness. You really do not know the next move. You're just there, you're like in prison and so on. So Wasin brings this out. And again, on another level, it could also be likened to what psychology calls social formation, where, because in the African society, women are kind of like cajoled, or they are made to believe that this is what is for them. It's like, for me, I call that ovaries on heels, because it's like the sole purpose of a woman, or the sole purpose of existence, is to live and have children and nothing more. So is this what a person solely lives for? Aside from that, does she not have a life to live? So because society kind of cajoles the person to believe that this is this so much that every woman believes that once she grows up, her sole purpose of existence is to live and get married and have children, so that when she does not attain that, she feels she has failed, and so on. She has failed society, she has failed herself. So the same thing, we're relating it to the pandemic that happened as well, where a whole lot carried out through social media. People had to stay back at home and then carry out the rules, or would I say rules? They were giving out to follow everything by the rules, wash your hands, do this, and so on. And again, I had to put some excerpts which from the dialogue which I had to get out just to show the kind of language and so on. This is at the beginning where a mother tries to convince the daughter and so on to accept her suitor who has come to ask for her hand in marriage, even though she is not in love with the guy, but because they need the money, the mother tries to convince her to get married and then save the only heir to the father's lineage. And of course, Gufan gives, she finally agrees and say, after all, it is the way of the world. The girl must marry, and so on. So she carries on. Here we have Gufan and Wasin, that is in person of Nora and Mrs. Christine, where they are discussing and exchanging, just recounting their ordeal, what they have been through, and so on. So Wasin also tells Gufan, but Gufan tells Wasin, you know that it is impossible, since a woman can never inherit her father's properties. This is where Wasin tells her friend that she has what she did, she has kind of gotten a letter of administration in order to inherit everything to save the husband, because she gets all that and then she sells everything off to raise money to take the husband to India and so on. So these are several just as excerpts from conversations and so on. Of course, when she saved the husband and he's not appreciative, and later finds out what Wasin did to raise money for his treatment, he gets enraged and then uses foul language on her, insults her, debases her. And one of them could be seen where he says, "You despicable, vile-hearted woman, how could you? Do you know the gravity of what you have done?" And then he goes on and on and on. And you can see like where he says, "What manner of shame is this? Oh, I am done for. You scoundrel, you have brought untold shame unto me. You have completely ruined the reputation I have built all through my life. Do you know the havoc you have caused?" You can see everything is about him, about his ego, and so on. And of course, when Wasin finally realizes that she is not appreciated, she gets angry, and then she's like, "If I can sacrifice my life and future but turn around to gain nothing, what have I really lived for?" That is where there is the reawakening. So she just realizes that she has wasted all her time and so on, and she decides to get out of the marriage. "You only have reawakened me from my slumber. You can fool the whole world by wearing several masks, but you can't fool me anymore. So this is a great reawakening. So it also relates how people within Africa, within the African society, in spite of all they go through, have they really realized what they are going through or so? But most of the times they stay back, even though they know they are going through pain. And then some, for many, they have lost their lives because they face battery and they cannot talk about it. They keep quiet and it ends up taking their lives. So here are certain reflections again, which Wasim prods many to ask. Should a woman remain in an abusive marriage? And how should people rethink attitudes? Because attitudes are taught and so on. And how could this be changed? Why does society think that the man should control the woman? Is it that the woman is not capable of thinking and making decisions on issues? And is marriage a rite of passage in society? Is it right for a woman to stay in an abusive marriage for the sake of children? Because many go through a lot, but because of the children, they still stay back. So is this right? Why does society focus on the woman and expects her to keep the home? Why does religion concentrate on the woman and not the man? Because when people are facing all manner of challenges, they go through sometimes they go to meet the religion, either religious head like the pastor or a priest or an imam, and the whole attention is on the woman to hold the home and so on. So why is it always the woman? So these are so many questions Wasim is challenging and asking through the dungeon. And again, even on religious grounds, sometimes a woman is also violated, and because maybe they feel she's a woman, she should not talk, she should not challenge situations. Like maybe a priest could impregnate a girl within Nigeria, and then he runs away to either Canada or the US. And of course, he stays there, nobody knows his background back here in Nigeria or in Africa, but he's there working, but he has a vow, he has a dark what over here, and so on, he's there working. And then because maybe the person who has been violated is a young girl, and sometimes they try to like even silence the parents. They are downtrodden, they're kept down in order not to bring it out to embarrass the person. Some could even be involved in fraud, and then they run away, and some go into school in the US or in Canada and so on. And of course, maybe by the time they have lived for a certain number of years, they are given the citizenship and so on. But like they do not know what they have done back home, but out there, they are pious, they are everything perfect and so on. They are revered and respected, but they have a history back in Africa, in Nigeria and so on. So these are the many things women face. So Wasim is out there challenging in person of Nora. She's there challenging all this, that women should rise up and then speak out rather than keep quiet and ignore certain practices, certain injustices done to the women. So in all, the whole essence is that gender bias or gender discrimination begins in the mind because it is taught. Because nobody is born with discrimination in mind, to have a discriminatory mind and so on. But it is taught because society brings up all this, and then when a person grows up and then begins to learn this, he or she carries it out, just like every other thing is taught and so on. So in order to change and then bring equity and equality, all intellectual and social solidarity also has to be taught. beginning right from the home. And this can be achieved through inclusive gender participation, inequity, and equality building for development. So in essence, since this is taught, bringing about equity and equality must also be taught so that everybody would live in harmony and in peace in the society. Thank you so much for your time and for listening too.
Dr. Mnena Abuku for this very insightful presentation. Indeed, there couldn't be a better time for us to have this presentation coming on the day after International Women's Day. And I'm happy to see that you did actually preface your presentation with that. So it looks like we had good foresight in making this the brown bag for today. I think we'll celebrate all women around the world, even if it's a day after, we're still waiting much in the season. So thank you. Now we will open up the discussions for a Q&A. I see that our friend and colleague, Tag El-Hazin, has already posted a question or a comment. But just before we take questions again, I want to remind us that this session is being recorded, and if you have any concerns or any reasons why you wouldn't want your face to appear, would request that you do not necessarily turn on your video. And we can only have your voice, and then you may also consider just posting your question and letting us know that we only have to read it. But having said that, I would wish that each person who wants to ask a question could turn on their video so that Dr. Abuku will not just be talking to a wall or to walls around here, and then it can make it more interactive and come alive, you know, in the true African spirit. So please feel free when you want to ask a question, and then we'd like to really have it on video, if you could turn it on. So Tag, may I invite you to take the first shot, seeing that you had already posted on the chat. And then others who have any questions and who do not want necessarily to speak may also put their questions or comments on the chat, and we'll track that as Dr. Abuku takes his questions and response. Thank you very much. And then let's give her a round of applause. I know it's virtual, but at least can give her a virtual round of applause for that presentation. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Brother Nduka, thank you very much. Doctor, thank you very much, Dr. Abuku. My question is, I put a proviso that most of what you told us is actually manifestations. And behind those manifestations and practices, there is certainly structural defaults in Nigeria. Nigeria has a north-south divide that we cannot ignore. It has a Muslim-Christians divide, African spiritualities. Nigeria, with 170 million inhabitants, they have 250 ethnicities. Each of them have got their own language, they have got their own practices and so on. So these are what I call the structural defaults. Can you talk to us about any state-sponsored activities and actions or community-sponsored activities and actions to address the very disturbing manifestations that you talked to us about? So I would invite you, with your experience, to get a little bit deeper than the manifestations and tell us if you are aware of any laws, if there is anything in the Constitution, if there are any social movements to address the worrying manifestations you talked to us about. Thank you very much.
Like you said, Nigeria is a very vast country, and with lots of ethnicities and communities and so on, and different religions where you have Christians and Muslims thereabout. Well, I'm not from the north, so I wouldn't know so much about the northern religion or practices. I'm not so deep into the laws and so on. So I believe things should be questioned.
Thank you so much, Mnena. And then I would like to quickly state that this is purely an academic and scholarly exercise, and it's not meant to disparage any religion or any beliefs. And it's so important that we put this disclaimer so that we can understand that the context of this discussion is purely based on the work that a scholar has done, and then also on other ideas available in intellectual spaces. So shall we have any more questions or comments? Please feel free. You don't necessarily have to be a question. If you have a view that you want to join with what the presentation or the presenter has made, please feel free to do so. I saw a hand flash. Yes, Dr. Blair Rutherford. Yes, shall we hear from you?
Hi, Mnena. How are you doing?
It's so good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Yes, it was great seeing you and Duca and everyone. I apologize. I got caught in a meeting that went too long, so I missed the first part of your very interesting talk. So my question perhaps is something you already talked about at the beginning. So I apologize for if I'm for missing the first part of your talk. But I was wondering if your play has been performed in Nigeria, the dungeon, or elsewhere, and what are the responses of the audiences to it, since it's wonderfully engaging with the gender inequalities and the struggles many women, not only in Nigeria but elsewhere in Africa and beyond, are dealing with. So I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the varied receptions, if it has been performed, or if it hasn't been performed, what are your ideas where you want to stage the play?
Yes, thank you for that beautiful question. Yes, it has been performed. It was first of all performed on 17th December 2020. That was during the pandemic and so on, because the first performance was an experimental production, because that was when I had finished putting the work together. So I had people in Nigeria who were rehearsing and so on. So that what you saw there, the pictures, that's the first production, because it was taken to the marketplace, because it was put in form of forum theater, where the people have to watch and then get involved, where people would also discuss what they have seen and they put up their opinions and so on. So it was from there. The second production was put up in the university community on June 3rd. That was last year, some couple of months back, June 3rd, in the university community and so on stage. So it has been performed. Of course, it has addressed several issues, and the response was really positive, was really good, because lots of people, this is what they face in the community, in the society, but most of the times they find it difficult to talk about issues, challenges they face. So bringing that out was like putting everything out for them to see themselves. So the response was really, really beautiful and so on. And again, relating it to the culture, the indigenous culture, for me, I even tag it indigenous Ibsen, because bringing it down to the indigenous culture of the people, they really related very well to the production and so on. So it was a very huge success.
That's wonderful to hear. That's great. Thanks so much. Thank you, Mnena. That's great to hear.
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair, for that very thoughtful question, and then also for the appropriate response that Mnena has given. We'll be happy to take a few more questions or comments. They could be questions or they could be comments. This has been quite an enlightening presentation that is based off of the work of the speaker for today, her play. And those of you who listened, would see some of the parallels that she draws between the great playwright Ibsen and the work that she has done within the Nigerian context. And so if you have any reflections on the presentation, we'll be very glad to have it. So may I ask if you have any more questions?
Yeah, just one quick one. How can we get a copy of the play?
That's a good one.
But it will soon be out because it's with the publishers.
Okay, so it's
I see.
Yes, I have the soft copy, but the hard copy will soon be out and so on. So
can you share the soft copy, or you will wait until the hard copy comes out?
I could share that. That's okay. It's an academic work, so that's fine.
Okay, I will just put my.
Share your email.
I will. I will. This is very kind of you. Thank you very much. This is very kind of you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, so do we have any more questions or comments? Oh, okay, Zainab Shalangwa. I live in Maiduguri, northeast Nigeria, a predominantly Muslim community where religious and cultural beliefs are held in high esteem. With the Boko Haram conflict and displacement, there is significant progress on gender equality and equity. The Federation of Female Lawyers, FIDA, and other NGOs are doing a good job regarding enlightenment. We are not where we ought to, but we have made significant progress. Thank you, Dr. Abuko. Would you like to respond to this very kind and insightful comment from Zainab Shalangwa? Mnena.
I'll say that's good, but a whole lot has to be done again because the country is really huge. And what really goes on is mostly in the rural areas. That is where the huge work needs to be done and so on. Because women face a whole lot. And then how do we reach out to enlighten, to create this awareness and enlightenment? It is the rural community that really has a whole lot to learn. Because most people go through a lot, but they just leave it and they take it. It's a way of life. That is how it should be. So it's a good thing. The FIDA is doing a whole lot, but we still have to create a whole lot of awareness. That is why, like the first production, just like I said, it was taken to the marketplace, to the simple people of the community and so on, where, of course, the marketplace is where you have a whole lot large community. It's different from the university community and so on. And then the kind of language you use there too is different from what you use in an academic environment. So it is the indigenous people who even need more of this awareness created out there. So it's good, but we still have a whole lot to work on. So I'll say kudos to that.
Thank you, and then thank you, Zainab, for that thoughtful comment. Do we have any more questions? Otherwise, while you're thinking about it, I would ask Mnena a question. So Mnena, drama is not a very popular genre amongst contemporary Nigerian writers. There's a whole lot more of fiction writers and of poets, you know, so there's poetry and there's fiction that is dominant. And now you have taken on to drama, which lends itself as a popular form. And you have also adopted from a very distinguished Norwegian playwright, you know, Henrik Ibsen. What is it about drama, you know, or playwriting as a way of dealing with such very sensitive contemporary Nigerian socio-political experience for you? Why drama? Especially considering that it's not just so popular right now, even if it's very much needed.
Just drama, you know, of course, a text is dead. It has no soul until you put it out there and so on. Until you put it out there in performance, that is where it comes alive and so on. And again, whatever you want to put out, when you write, not so many people read and not so many people, but by the time you put up a production or a performance, it attracts. And again, relating this to social issues in the society, it's an easier way of communication, because people, even when they see, they might not see anything, but when they go back, definitely they're going to reflect on that. So drama is still very important, because it is a way to bring out social issues in the society, and then a way of communication, so that you reawaken, because by the time things are happening and you're putting this out, it preps people to think. It propels them, it makes them to reason, to think, and to question. And so, because like the first production where it was taken to the marketplace, the response was really very inciting, very, very encouraging, because to see most of these women who came out to even give out their personal stories of what they have, and of course, certain questions, they were even the ones asking, and so on, asking certain questions and even answering, and so on. So drama is really a very powerful tool. It is it's a very strong tool of communication and reaching out to the society. It changes the mindset. It changes the mindset of a society, of community, and so on. It propels them to think. So it is a very strong way of communication. So till tomorrow, because like it has changed, drama has changed a whole lot of even would I say policies and so on, through communication and all that. So when its script is written, it's dead until it is put out there. That is where there is life in it.
Okay. Thank you very much for this presentation. Does anybody have any other question?
Yes, you have done your part now, Doctor, and you have written the play. You have coined very well what are the issues and what are the problems. What about the dissemination? What about sending this out? What about the tools for dissemination and the tools for receiving it? Do you think that there is enough space, social space, political space for people like yourself to propagate and to educate the population in such areas? Thank you.
Yes, there is, but like for putting up productions entail a lot, and of course, until maybe one gets some sponsorship and so on, because this is something very beautiful and huge. For all the productions, interestingly, all the productions that went out there, I had to sponsor them. And by the time you have to like maybe take this out, you have to maybe gain sponsorship from somewhere, because putting up a production is no small job and so on. So to pass this on, of course, we have it on media, on video, but we still have to do some work on it before maybe it might be sent out on social media like YouTube and all that. We're still working on that, because for these stage productions, and every other thing, I have to like sponsor that, and until probably we get the funding and body to sponsor that, to take it out there in a much bigger community and so on, before, because it's not kind of like easy to do a production.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Just a quick one that might help her. The Canada Fund for Local Initiatives. This is a Canadian fund, and the embassy is in charge of that. And they fund initiatives that start from the community. And certainly something like that, the project, not just the play, the project itself, you might need to Google the website of the Canadian Embassy and then go into Canada Fund for Local Initiatives. There might be some help there. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the chance, Nduka. Thank you.
Thank you for the information as well.
Sure.
Thank you, Tad. Thank you, our distinguished guest speaker, Mnena Buku, for leading the conversations today. We really do appreciate that you have mustered all the challenges, also to have brought this to a very exciting end. We thank you, and then we wish you luck with the play and with the project of promoting it and finally getting it published. I would like to note that we still have 2 brown bags for the rest of the academic year. The next brown bag is by John Kostopoulos, who is a research associate at the University of Pretoria, South Africa. And he'll be presenting on a very, very, very exciting and important topic or title, EU Africa 2.0, the challenges and opportunities of resettling EU-Africa relations, resetting EU-Africa relations. And this is scheduled for March 23rd, 2022, between 1 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And I will be moderating that session. Then after that, we'll have our final for the year, I believe, and that would feature Mary Owusu of the Department of History, Carleton University. And then we'll then send out the topic for that, but I'm just giving you a heads up. And this will take place on April 6, 2022, same time, 1 p.m. to 2:30. And it will be moderated by Dr. Shireen Hassim, Canada 150 Research Chair in Gender and African Politics. On this note, I want to thank those who have been behind working to get this together, our administrator, Femi and Deborah Aloti. Thank you guys for making this happen. It's been a tough year all along, but you have held strong, ensuring that this series, continues to take place. I'd also like to thank Dr. Blair Rutherford, a regular in this series, and the founding director of the Institute of African Studies. And of course, how could I leave a tag? And Zainab and all of you who have come here today. I want to thank you especially for being part of today's event. Eshoke Eshilama and those who may have left, our director, Dr. Christine Dolfu had also left for various reasons. So we look forward to having you at the next brown bag. The more the merrier. And Mnena, we can say good night now in Nigeria. And for those of you in North America, yes, business continues. Have a wonderful time for the rest of the day. Bye now.